What's up, everybody? This is Bruce, aka Geektacular, and today I've got another unboxing for you. Today I'm going to be unboxing the guidebook called Playing with Power, Nintendo NES Classics. So this is actually the book that came out from Prima Games, that came out with the NES Classic clone console that recently just came out from Nintendo a few months ago. So this is, if you haven't heard of it, which most people have at this point, it's basically just a little small system put out by Nintendo that looks like an original Nintendo Entertainment System, has the same kind of control pads and stuff, but it has basically a certain number of built-in games on it. It doesn't have a cartridge slot or anything like that, and it has HDMI, so you can just buy it, plug it into your modern television, and actually play a bunch of really good NES games from back in the day. So this makes it really nice for people who don't have an NES. I do actually have a functioning original NES and a ton of games for it, so it's not necessarily marketed maybe at me, but at people who had NESs back in the day and were like, hey, I haven't played one in 20 or 30 years or something, and would really like to kind of revisit that sort of nostalgic feeling, but on more modern technology. So this is the book that Prima put out to go along with it, and it has some strategy guide info. It's got some historical info, collectible value, things like that. So I wanted to pick this up just so I could kind of open it up, show you guys what's inside, and I think it's going to be really cool for people who are into the NES like me. So without further ado, because I know I ramble a lot, let's go ahead and take this out of the plastic wrap. So it comes shrink wrapped. There's no stickers or anything on the outside. So let's go ahead and take off the plastic wrap here. Oops. And this is the collector's edition version. So there is actually a version of this that is in paperback and does not have this slip on it. So if you want it a little bit cheaper and you don't really care about it having sort of the premium hardback treatment, there's actually a paperback version that's about $10 less or so. So as you can see, it's kind of designed to look like an oblong NES cartridge. It's sort of not proportioned quite right, obviously, but it gets more or less the idea across. So let me just show you first. On the back here, there is this paper insert that I'll show you, and this is not even adhered to anything. It doesn't even have any of that like sticky stuff that you would normally have. It just kind of is sitting inside the packaging. Let me see if I can get it to focus for you. There we go. So just kind of advertises what sort of stuff you can find inside with the hardcover collector's edition book and slipcase. It does actually have some behind the scenes interviews, things like that, and it also has a bunch of strategy stuff for the games that are actually on the console. So not only is it just kind of a cool collectible, but it does also help you play the games that are on there. So this outer box is actually real hard. I'll show you the spine there. So this is actually a pretty hard outer box, and all these ridges here, these are actually embossed. So you can kind of see it when I run the light over it here. You see how those kind of stick up? And same thing with this down arrow, and same thing with this. Basically all of the sort of depth details that you see are actually embossed for the most part. They're exaggerated with like black to kind of make them look deeper, so they aren't really deep as they look, but they are actually like, this whole thing is like ridged. And it's kind of just got like a matte wrap on it. It's not like the rubbery finish you find on some things, and it's not glossy really. It's kind of just matte, a matte print all over. And again, this is kind of just made to look like it dips farther down, but really it's just a slight little embossing there with some printing there to kind of make it look a little bit more exaggerated. So Look at that. And then this, like a good NES game, wrapped around on the top. I kind of wish they had put the name of the book right here, too. That would have made it a little bit more kind of realistic, I guess. But it does still look pretty cool on the top. And this is the embossing. It's embossed up here, too. So it's embossed kind of all the way around. And then you do have your connector right here, which also is raised. It's embossed, too. So you can kind of feel it as you run your finger across it. That's so cool. And then here is the side. So this is probably the side you'll have sitting on your shelf or whatnot. And then here's the back. And they even did the back so that it looks like the back of an NES cartridge with the little caution sticker too. And they just updated the copyright. And this, again, is also embossed, as you can kind of see there. So yeah, that's just awesome. So are the little screws. Those kind of are indented as well. So it's just cool that they went through all the trouble to make this really look like, you know, a really big NES cartridge on all sides. That's just so cool. All right, so let's take this out. It's actually red on the inside, FYI. And this is a really hard, sturdy case, so I really like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put this to the side here. So, on the front, you have kind of the left side of an NES controller. On the back, you have the right side, and the rest of it is just white. And this is hard. This is hardcover as well, but this is kind of that like rubbery finish. So I don't really know what to call it, but you kind of know what I'm talking about. It's on a lot of slip cases and things like that, where when you run your fingers over, it kind of feels almost rubbery. That's the kind of material it's made of. But it's basically just stark white, and then the controller graphic, so this like glossy print there. So, yeah. Spine right there. So let's go ahead and take a look inside. I'm not going to show you every single thing in here, but I do want to show you kind of just a sort of overview of the sorts of things that are in here. So one thing I do always like to show is the table of contents. So there you go. I'll show you how many pages it has and all the different sections. And then this shows you on which page the guide for each of these kind of starts. So let's just go ahead and flip through real quick. So the first part here is kind of history. There we go. Yeah, the first part here is kind of just history. So it actually goes over all the hardware too, which is pretty cool. Like there's a whole section on the 72-pin connector, which if you're familiar with the original NES, or if you have one, this is usually a part that goes bad eventually because it wasn't real great design to begin with, and taking cartridges in and out of it eventually wears that connector out and it can't really hold on to the cartridge anymore. And so that's what causes a lot of old NESs to stop being able to read cartridges. But luckily, like if you go on eBay, you can actually buy brand new, never used 72-pin connectors, and it's not too complicated to replace it yourself. So this shows all of the launch titles for the NES, and then we get into actually some of the games that are on the NES Classic. Tips, tricks, screenshots. There is actually, I think, even some info from old issues of Nintendo Power as well. Like I think I just saw a capture of a page from Nintendo Power, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I can't see it. Yeah, like here's a page scan, I think, from an old Nintendo Power. So they do even sort of pay homage to the old guides as well. But this walks you through Mario, Balloon Fight, and there's also some things just like this timeline here that goes through sort of the early period of NES games. Now, it is important to note that this book only focuses on Nintendo-made games. So this doesn't include anything about non-Nintendo games, so games made by other manufacturers, like Capcom or somebody, Acclaim, people like that, Activision. This is only strictly Nintendo-released games, is what you're going to find in here. There might be mentions of other games, maybe, but all of the guides and all that kind of stuff only covers games that are on the NES Classic and were published by Nintendo. So let me just go through this real quick. No need to kind of dwell, but you'll see that the pages are really nice quality, glossy, pretty thick. and there's graphics everywhere. This is a very graphic heavy book. So if you love kind of those old school graphics, if you like seeing these old pages from Nintendo Powers from back in the day, this is just such a cool way to see a lot of this stuff. Now, the one thing that a lot of people, my book is actually sticking together a little bit, which is kind of odd, but it's not causing any problems, so I might let it slide, but be warned there. One of the main things that people criticize this book for, rightly so, is that right here, it says, hey, Legend of Zelda fans, check out this awesome map of the overworld. Where is that map, you ask? Not in the book. So they wrote this whole thing right here, right? And it's just, they wrote this whole thing about it, and then they never put it in. It's supposed to go, like, right here. But they just totally spaced on it and didn't put it in the book. Now, you can go to nesmaps.com and get this map. That's the map that they're sending out to people. So if you go on their website or their Twitter and complain to Prima Games about this, they'll basically send you a link to a PDF that has the nesmaps.com version of the overworld map. So that was the map that they were going to use, I guess, for this. So if you're looking for that, it sucks that it's not actually in the book. It's so ridiculous. But you can go to nesmaps.com and get the map that they're sending out to people. So that's something at least. Also, another funny thing is that on the back insert for the book, this is the page that they choose to advertise the book with. They have 3 2-page spreads that they use as like their example photos on the back. This is the thing you're supposed to look at when you're thinking about buying the book and you read the blurbs and stuff on the back. This is the mistake. This is the big honking mistake in the book, and it's on the back ad. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. It's insane that they made such a big oversight. Not only did nobody catch it before it was printed, but then they used the spread in the back insert too. It's just ridiculous. It's crazy. But I guess I would just encourage you to go to nesmaps.com. You can download the overworld map there, print it out or something, and just shove it in your book. I guess that's as good as you're going to get, because I don't think they're going to reprint this or anything. Anyway, moving on from there. So just, a ton of information, punch out, tips, tricks. They give you some information about the story as well. So it's not even just the gameplay, but they go into like the backstory, the characters. You even get cool pages like this, which have like sprites, like photos of a bunch of the sprites and their official names and stuff like that. So that is real cool. So there's just a lot of that for all those games you saw at the beginning. Let's see. So let's just flip a little bit more. I don't want to bore you guys because we're not really looking at the book in depth here, but I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of what's in there. And then at the very end, we have a couple pages on NES peripherals, which are things like the ROB, robotic operating buddy that came with the very first NES action deck sets. And then you have your NES Advantage, Max Controller, Zapper, Satellite, all this good stuff. And then just a final page at the end. So there's no extra artwork on the inside of the covers or anything, just red. But yeah, this is actually really, really cool. I'm a big fan of this. And let me see if this will fit in the book. Because I like to save these back things. Yeah, so if you want to save this back thing, because I kind of like those, it'll actually just fit in the book. And then this just slips in like so. I'm trying to be careful about it here. Whoop. And there you go. Playing with Power, Nintendo NES Classics. Harkening back to the NES, a good companion for the NES Classic that just came out not that long ago, a few months ago now. And just really cool if you're into, retro gaming, NES, SNES. if you just want some info, obviously you can get almost all of these facts and tips and stuff in the guides on like Game Facts or any other website like that. So the strategy guide part of this is actually kind of the least useful part, just because these games are so old and there's an infinite amount of walkthroughs and tips and tricks online already for all these games. So the strategy guide part, not really necessary these days, but it's really the history, the artwork, the graphics, the really cool box, just sort of all the info, interviews, pictures of past Nintendo powers, all that kind of stuff. That kind of just makes it a cool, nostalgic package that you sort of, want to pick up and read and then kind of display prominently on your shelf. So, yeah, that's what I think about it. If you like this unboxing, go ahead and give me a thumbs up down below. That would be awesome. If you like these kinds of unboxings, if you like retro video games, modern video games, if you like movies, sci-fi, fantasy, kaiju, anime, collectibles, anything like that, go ahead and click subscribe down below. And that way, you'll get notified whenever I come with any new videos. And also be sure to hit that notification bell down below so you'll be sure not to miss any of my future content. So, thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.